So welcome back, and today I have a description of the deck that I used in the last game that I uploaded, or actually the first game that I uploaded on YouTube. And I did a really detailed guide on this that I posted on MMDOC King. But I know some of you don't really have the patience to read that much, and instead I thought, well, why not make a YouTube video so you can just kind of look through it and it will be as boring if you don't like to read too much. So I thought I'd go through the decks that the cards that I use and explain a bit about how I use them, what they're for, and also talk to you about some stuff about deck building and how that works. So the hero that we're using is Myranda. She's a really fun champion to play. She's with the faction called Academy, and she uses Prime and Air Magic. Her special ability is to relocate target friendly magic creatures. Now what this means is that she can actually take a creature that has magic in it and she can move it. So if you have one of these on the back row, there's a blocker, she can move them. She can reposition so that she gets a better advantage in the game, and it's not something you'd use early on, but mid to late game it can be very powerful. So the first card we have is the Scholar. What he does is he channels one magic, meaning that if we start with, you can see here on Myranda she has one magic and 2 might. If you put this guy on the board, it means that we'll immediately have 2 might and 2 magic, even though we didn't raise anything. So that's good, because later on we'll have some very expensive spells that we're going to use, and this guy and another one we have, and some of the djinns later on, will help raise that magic up so that we can afford to do them. Still, don't rely too much on these channelers, because if they're killed off, you're stuck with 4 magic on turn 7 or 6, which is not a good thing. So a very good card. I have 3 of these after the change where they upped the cost of Dark Assassins to 3, because you need to somehow compensate for raising your magic to your might to 3 that early. Rakshasa skirmishers, oh my god, they cost 1, and they have evade, which is so strong against early melee creatures. I've had people like literally waste really expensive spells to take these away, or POWs or anything, just to get them away, because they can wreak havoc with many decks. It's a very good card for 1 cost. Dark Assassin, after the patch they changed it so he costs 3 might, which is, well, it makes it a bit more difficult to play. I tried taking him out of the deck after the patch, but that 4 damage for 2 costs is just so powerful, and with Myranda's ability to clear pathways, switch around creatures, it's just, or even time jump, which we'll get into later, it's a very good card to have. So I kept them in, although I should point out that on turn 2nd I'm very careful about putting one of these. If I go 2nd and I have one of these in hand, I won't always put it out, because if you do, you're gonna be stuck with 1 magic and 3 might on turn 3, which means you have nothing to clear the path for your Dark Assassin. So if they put down a 5 cost creature, it's kind of screwed, you can't do anything. So it's still very good, but you have to be more careful about how you use it. Another card I put in for this session was, this patch, was the Moon Phoenix, which is great mid to late game. He keeps coming back for more, like the Energizer Bunny, and you can just put him down, put him down, put him down. He can be a cheap blocker, he can do quite a lot of damage. It's like a mini Dark Assassin in many ways. And he has the advantage, not really well, in the beginning it's a disadvantage, but later on it's an advantage. He can ban creatures and spells from your deck, because when you put him on the board, you need to take away 3 cards from your graveyard, and that can be a very good thing against certain heroes and factions. Wizard Tutor, oh, he's so good. Such a good card. He can block 2 damaged creatures for 2 turns. He channels 1 magic. Just an absolute necessity to have 4 of these. Very useful. Another Rakshasa. This one has 2/5, which means it's a bit more He can take a bit more of a beating, but you don't want to have too many Rakshasas, because what they do is when they get hit by a melee creature the first time, they bump into the opposing slot, and if you have too many creatures in the front row, it won't work. So you have to be careful with this. This one, the Guardian Golem, it's very powerful because he forces all their spells to be targeted at him. So if they try to lower your attack damage, or maybe they want to do a fireball or some kind of puppet master or whatever they want to do, they have to target this guy. So he can be very powerful. If you're playing against something with Inferno, I mean fire spells, you want to have one of these preferably on the board before you put down the Dark Assassin, because if you don't, they're just going to use a cheap 1-cost spell and wipe him out. Spell Jinn, also powerful card, 3/3/5, really good stats. The drawback though is that if you have 0 action points left at the end of your turn, you're going to do 1 damage to a hero. And this multiplies. If you have 4 of these, you're actually going to do 4 damage. I mean, if you have 4 of these on the board, well, I just have 3, but if you have 3 of them on the board, and you end your turn with 0 action points, it means you're going to do 3 damage to your hero. So you have to be careful with this one, and think about it when you use your action points later on. Usually it's worth it because her stats are so strong, but still, you need to think about it. What else? Yeah, there's another one. You can use another card. Let's see if I can find it. This one, Unstable Genie. He has 4/2/6, which is extremely powerful for a 3-drop, but he requires 4 might and 3 magic. Now that means it's that you can never put him down on turn 3 pretty much, unless you have a channeler. Wait, even with a channeler, I don't think you can do it. If you have 2 channelers, yeah, if you get, let me think, turn 1, well, anyways, it's a hassle, because if you get one of these in your starting hand, you're most likely not going to be able to use them on turn 3. So I had another guy who's very skilled with Myranda who uses these, so try them out, see what you think. But for me, they're a bit too difficult to use, and also they cost 2 action points. They don't require 2 action points left, they actually cost 2 for you to attack, and if you don't, you're going to do 2 damage to this card. So one of those cards that can be so good, but also you have to be careful with it. So we have the Spell Jinn, and then you have the next one, the Arcane Archer. He's also a good card that just great stats, 3/3/6. Look at this, 3/3/5. She has almost the same stats as this 4-drop creature, but with the drawback of this 1 damage to your hero. So that's why they made her so powerful, and why she's such a powerful card. These do a lot of damage. I mean, you keep these in the back row, and they also have magic like many of these others have, so you can move them around, do precision points with Miranda's ability. Rakshasa Scout. He has Swift, which means he can run around the board. He has Evade. He has 3 damage. That's a great card. I mean, that really causes havoc with the enemy team, and they have to deal with this somehow, because he can, if they attack him, he moves to the opposite. The slot next to him. He can do an attack on the hero, then return and block again. Very good card, and difficult to deal with for the enemy. Hasafa, the Unseen Arrow. Oh, this guy. Painful. He does, well, this is an epic card, a unique epic. So what he does is that he has a focus blast, meaning if you have 1 creature here that you're attacking, and 1 here, and here, he does 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, and 2 damage, which is a total of 8 damage maximum, which is pretty crazy. And on top of that, he also, let's see, puts a crippling counter on a target enemy creature every time he attacks. And he does it when he enters the board. So that's a very powerful card. Good to have. Worth noting though is that if you have dark magic against you, you have to be very careful with this one, because what he'll do is he'll take, let me think, the Shadow Image, which counts as a deployment and has quick attack. So he'll do 1 crippling strike crippling counter when he deploys it, and then he can immediately attack doing another crippling counter. So it's dark magic, you have to be very careful. If you have this guy here, Guardian Golem, you're a bit safer, but you should have spells that can deal with the enemy taking your creatures, which we do in this deck. It's actually quite good against dark magic. Jin, incredible creature again. I keep saying that, but like, these creatures are so good. She has magic 2 channels, so if you have 4 and you put this on, it means you immediately get 6. So preferably you'd want to put this one down, or the next one we're going to get to, Nur, on turn 5, and you should be safe to have your 6 magic on turn 6. She has spell resist, so if someone does, say, Insect Swarm, which does 3 damage, you round that down to the lowest point, so 3, you divide it and round it down to the lowest number, so 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, so they only do 1 damage, which makes her difficult to deal with, and a good card. I run 3 of these. I have Nur, which is basically the same. You see, they have the same stats, 336, 336, but she has a special ability. She's a unique creature, and she has magic channel 3, which is an extra magic there. So whenever you play an instant spell, which is all of the spells in this deck, you draw a card. This is perfect for Myranda because you'll be doing lots of spells and you get more cards. You keep filling up those cards, so that's a very good card for this deck. Now we get on to the cards that came from Heart of Nightmares and let's see. Cytheria, Chosen of the Wind, wins. If you check out the video that I did on my gameplay, but when I had on turn, I think it was on turn 5, I had 1 health left, and the Garant game against me, he had 20, and I actually won that game on turn 14, I think. This card was a vital part of that, because she has this ability that when she enters the battleground, she can take an enemy creature, throw him off the board, and outmaneuver another one, and that's a very powerful move to have. So you can completely reorganize what the board looks like, and it's great for your Fork Lightnings. It's great for killing off creatures. So in that game, what I did is what I normally try to do is I try to throw away an expensive creature. Say they have a 5-drop or a 4-drop or maybe even a 6-drop, and just putting this creature on the board means they lose those 6 action points, and you can move the smaller creature in front of, say, someone like this who does 3 damage and kill them off, or you can put them in front of a Rakshasa so that they can't do any damage. So it's a very powerful card. And the Jin Cloud Shaper, this card, I haven't seen him many times in the game, but I'd say this guy's almost OP. I only have 1 of these. I'd run 2 if I had them. Probably not 3 because that's a bit too many, but maybe if I did have, no, probably not. In this deck, not 3, but I can see other decks using 3 or even 4 if they're built more around him. He looks a bit strange because he costs 10, and that sounds crazy, but his requirements are 3 and 4, and with all these channelers, channel 3, channel 2, you have the guys in the beginning, which was 1 and 1. So when you get to turn, say, 6 or 7, you'll be at magic. You should be at magic around 7 or 6 at least, which means this guy costs 3 on turn 7. I've actually dropped him down on turn, what was it, like 9 or something like that, or 8. I think 8 even, for 0, together with a time jump, that's strong. That's very, very powerful. And they're difficult to deal with because they're 8 health, 4, 4, 8. So if any melee creature attacks them and they're not immune to damage, that's 4 damage they're going to take. And yeah, it's a scary guy. I think we're going to see a lot of him once people discover just how strong he is. Like I said, I'm really surprised I haven't seen more of him because it's such a strong card. Mass Dispel, all of those cards that people use boost up their creatures, or permanent spells, or you have someone doing earth magic and doing a stone wall, stone shield, stone wall, I can't remember the name, and you can attack. They don't see this one coming. It takes away everything on the board. It just completely erases all spells on the board, all ongoing spells. So this is a very good card to have. Currently I'm only running one. The way the meta looks right now is that it seems that you might want to run more of these in the future, because there's a lot of people putting boosts on their creatures and blocking off lanes, and this is a very good card to counter that. There's another one that is an alternative. So I'll show you this one, Void Ripple. Now what this one does is it can remove just one card, but it can be any card, and it banishes it. So it can be a creature, meaning you can open up a lane with it. It can be a fortune, it can be a spell, it can be anything except for an event card. So that's also a very good alternative. I have tried running one of these and one of my the Mass Dispel, and that worked really well. So if you want to, you can shift it. I mean, you can have one of these and one of the Void Ripples. It's up to you. You can even run 2 Void Ripples if you want. I just like the ability to just clear the board of all the spells, because sometimes people just say you have Immolation, the kind of tacky technique where they put up 4 Immolation that do 1 damage to every creature on the board, and then they have magic resist. So it's kind of difficult to deal with them. This card will take all of those away, just ruining their plans. So it's a good card to have. Town Portal, essential to this deck. What it does is it can buy you time to get to turn 6, and also open up holes for your Fourth Lightning. When it buys you time, not only buys you time, but say if they use a Puppet Master for 3 cost to copy one of your expensive creatures, you can TP it back for 3, which means they lost out, and then get the card back into your hand and reuse it. You can TP back the card we had. Let's see, we can TP back. We have it here. Sephiria. So you can actually take her, even if she's a unique creature. If she dies, then she's banished. But if you TP her back, you can reuse her. So you can TP her back and then use her ability once again if you wanted to. Or if you have, say, this card and he's low and you really want to use him again because you're past turn. You attack with him, he's down on 2 health, and it's turn 10 and you have 10 magic. It means you can take your Town Portal him back to your hand and put him down for free. Very good card. Good to deal with fatties also when they put them down. Garand Gate hates these. They really hate them. So for that they're very good. Lightning Strike, 4 damage to target creature. That's what you use early game to control the board, to make sure they don't have any Dark Assassins that you can't deal with, or you can use it to, say they block something off with that has 6 health, and you have a 3 damage on your creature. You can use this one to total the damage to 7 and actually kill them. So I run 4 of these, and this one, the Lightning Bolt, Lightning Strike, the reason I have one of these is because they're cost 4, and normally I just found that having a 3 cost creature, 3 cost removal helps me more, because most of the time it'll be 4 that I need to kill off the creature or to control the board early game. This one was incredible if they put out, say, a Noor, a Nur, or no, wait, what's her name? Nur they actually can't because she has spell resist, but if they put out, I killed off just the other game. Is it Raya, the Sanctuary unique creature? She has 6 health and she can block an enemy from attacking for a turn, which is an annoying feature. But with this one you can kill her off directly. Song of the Lost, reposition every single creature on the enemy side of the board. Now, I kind of think of this one as my replacement to the POWs. The POW costs 4, this one costs 4. Many times you use the POW because you don't have an open lane, but with this one you can open up lanes, and it's so powerful together with Fourth Lightning, or just generally reorganizing the board so that you minimize the damage from the enemy creatures, and also to be able to kill off vulnerable targets. So this is a good card this is a very strong card for this deck. For the Skywrath against Necro, which is popular right now, this is kryptonite because all of their vampires are flyers, and for 5 costs, that's 2 more than the town portal. You pull up 1 card and do 6 damage to all other flyers. This generally means that if it's a Necro, you just wipe the board. Or if, say, you have an Inferno Stronghold and they do a Forbidden Flame. I'm thinking of Kelter mostly, and they have the... can't come up with their name. The Vulture Riders that cost 0 because they kill off so many creatures. Then just pluck one of them up and you kill all of them off. So that's a great card to have. Time Jump, together with the Jin Cloud Shaper or the Dark Assassins, this can do insane amounts of damage, because what it does is that it gives you 1 more turn to use your creatures. You should think about your Cell Spell Jins, because they do 1 damage at the end of the turn. So if you end your turn, if you have say 2 of these on board, and you end with 0, then it means you're going to do 2 damage, and then after the time jump you're going to do another 2 damage, so be a bit careful about that. But except for that, it's a great card to have for, especially if you have people using the Throne of Renewal. Having this one, dropping down your Jin Cloud Shapers for, so what they'll do is they use the Throne of Renewal, take off all your creatures from the board. You'll put down the Jin Cloud Shaper that costs 0 late game, and then maybe 1 or 2 Dark Assassins, and you'll have 4, 8, 12. I mean, I've done 16 damage 1 turn. I had 1 game when I think I was 2 health, and enemy was 16, and he left 1 3 damage creature open. I could out-remover my Rakshasa, so I did 6 the first turn, and then I put down a Dark Assassin doing another 4 the next turn, plus the 6, so that's 16 damage with just this one and Dark Assassin. So works great with this deck. I wouldn't run more than 2 though, because it's, yeah, you have to be careful with how many spells you use, especially these expensive ones. Forked Lightning though, that one I would run 5 if I could, because it's the backbone of this deck. It's what makes it work. I would say, at least, because the way that the games usually turn out is that you try to stall the game a bit until turn 6. You still have some powerful early game creatures. You can do a lot of damage, which is why Myranda is so potent, but after turn 6 she becomes deadly, because then you can do these insane board clears, and many people are not aware of them because they leave gaps. They leave gaps, and you need gaps. You can kill off 5 creatures in one go with these if you're very lucky. If they have a creature that's, say, 8 health or something like that, these do 5 damage per, so they do, say if you click here, it will do damage 5, 5, 5, 5. So if you put 1 here and 1 here, it'll do 5 here and then 5 here again, so it'll do 10 damage on this point. It also does damage on your side, which you should be aware of. So knowing these nuances to it is very important. Look at the game I did with the Garant Gate, and there was one time when I wiped the board and they had 6, is it Haikiku, the whatever his name is, the Inferno creature. I mean no wait, what's his name? I forgot, never mind. He had 6 health, so I overlapped 2 of these and killed him in 1 turn. So this is, if there's any card you really need to get. Many of the others you can shift around, but I'd say 4 of these is essential. You could run it with 3, but it's gonna hurt the deck. 2, well, you could, but that would defeat the point, kind of. Yeah, that wouldn't be very good. So you need 4, at least 3. Less than 3, it's not so good. The events we're running are Week of Taxes, meaning that that's just like the most obvious card you can run, because you don't run any fortunes. So if enemy runs a fortune, they have to pay 1. This is great for you, really bad for the enemy if they have fortune-based decks. If they don't, well, it's a dead card, and it doesn't really matter anyway. Still, you should have this card. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Week of the Wild Spirits. I didn't run this at first, but I started running it, and it's a really good card because many of your creatures have magic damage. So you should. I mean, you shouldn't, but you could. What it is basically a guaranteed week of mercenaries, and it also guarantees that it'll only help magic creatures, which many times, well, it can be good and it could be bad also. So this card you could shift around to something else if you really wanted to, but still, it's a good card to have. So that's the rundown of the Myranda deck. It's an incredibly fun deck to play. I know I keep saying that, oh, this card is so strong, this card is so strong. It's because I played probably 600 games with Myranda, and once you start learning all the nuances of the deck that you're using and how to use it, you realize that the cards, some of them are just so strong once they're used correctly. So the Guardian Golem can just completely wreak havoc on someone trying to ruin your game with, I mean, your creatures by lowering their attack damage, because they have to put all of them on him. Maybe they want to try to steal a creature from you, and you put down a this one, and there's a dark magic, and I think, oh man, we're just gonna take her and use her for ourselves, and you put this one down. They can't do anything. The town portal, say they steal your creatures, you just return them. I had such an incredibly fun game one time against I think it was a gazelle, and she was stealing my Nur. And we were saying, like, I think it lasted for like 14 or 15 turns, and he took her like 5 times or something like that, and he kept taking her. I'd take her with TP, I'd return her to my side of the deck. Eventually I'd even use the Farthest Sky Wrath to bring her back, and we were just laughing. It was so much fun. Or I'd use Master Spell. I think I used one time because he had that new card for, I mean, not the new card, but the one that's in BS2, is it? And Enthrall. So this one, if they have 3 creatures that they took with Enthrall, this one will actually bring all of them back to your hand. So you'll start to learn like the nuances of the deck, and I would say that's the main difference between being actually a good player and just, I mean, being a skilled player who's really good compared to just a good player with a good deck, because anyone can get all of these cards. I mean, that's not the big point, but being able to use it is what's difficult. So if you would have given me this deck when I started out, I'd just completely lose I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. So yeah, I hope you have fun with her. Check out the video I did, the gameplay video against the Garant Gate, which was a real, yeah, that was a fun game. It's rare that they last that long, but she has incredible power to come back late game. She can rush down, she does board wipes at turn 6, and she's difficult to deal with. I think she's highly underestimated.